Okay, welcome to the Swedish Junior Hockey Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Dahlin, and with us today, someone that has a interesting name, James Reason for a Swede. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jacob. Nice to be here.
This episode is brought to you by Scandlux, your home for Scandinavian luxury products for the U.S. market. You can find us at scandlux.com.
So let's start with, let's start with your name because, and then where you're from, so we can get the context here, but not the very Swedish name.
So I grew up at a small island, or not actually that small island outside Stockholm called Lidingö. My dad's from Oxford, England, and my mom, she went to England, stayed there for 8 years, got pregnant, and then they got back home to Sweden again.
So, the rest is history.
So, yeah.
So the mystery of the name is solved, because I know we got connected, and I had to think a little bit when it said James Reason, not very Swedish, and then I know that you were wondering if I spoke Swedish and so on. So, so the next thing, you now live in Varmdo, right? Or do you still live in Lidingö?
No, neither. To be frank, I actually live in Saltsjöbaden.
Okay.
Which is about, I would say, 25 minutes from Varmdo.
So, but you work as a volunteer, but you're on the board within Varmdo Hockey organization.
Yes, that's correct. I'm the vice chairman of Varmdo Hockey, and it's free of charge.
Yeah. That's right. So let's start, since we always talk about this from a geographical standpoint, because a lot of people don't know. Of course, the people from Sweden know, but people when you look at who listens to this podcast, it's amazing. People from all over the world listens in, and so the uniqueness about Stockholm, for those who've never been to Stockholm, and specifically Saltis or Saltsjöbaden, I grew up in Leksand, and I spent so little time in Stockholm, but I've been out in the archipelagos of Stockholm, and it's unique. So describe it for the person who's never been.
Oh, to begin with, Stockholm is a city on the sea. And I would say it's actually possible to take like a small boat, like the ferry commute boat out, and it takes you like 20 minutes, and you're out in the archipelago straight ahead. So it's basically water wherever you look. Looking at the suburbs, because Saltsjöbaden is kind of a suburb to Stockholm.
Yep.
It's halfway out in the archipelago. So I have my own boat. It takes me like 10 minutes, and then I'm out. So it's like a paradise.
Yeah. And for those who don't know what archipelagos are, what is it?
It's like 100 or thousands of small islands within the sea, close to shore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's beautiful.
And little cottages, little fishing boats. Summertime, it's like seals that are laying on the beach, enjoying the sun. It's amazing when you go through Stockholm in the summertime, and when the sun is out, everybody goes out on their boats. Everybody goes out, and work stops and leisure starts.
That's true, except for those crazy people staying inside the bar, the ice bar.
Yeah, that's right, inside the hockey. So let's talk about hockey. Yeah. I just wanted to get that context a little bit. So, so let's talk a little bit about your background. I mean, I know you've been involved both as a coach and on the board for a local hockey organization, and I really want to talk. And then you're CEO of TargetAid, which I want to talk about at the end. But the main focus of today, I thought, would be from the perspective of a hockey organization in Sweden, what works? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities within Swedish hockey junior players specifically are the topics. So give us a little bit about your background, because I know you have kids and that are involved in hockey, and specifically Alexander, who's an 06, who's in hockey gymnasium and a J18 player now. So give us a little bit of background.
Okay, as you mentioned, I'm 53 years old. I grew up in Lidingö. I played for Lidingö Hockey through J18, which was called B Junior at that time. I started my coaching at what we call in Sweden Tre Kronor Hockey School at Saltis, Saltsjöbaden. It wasn't my plan to get into hockey again, but I had some friends here in Stockholm because I moved here like 17 years back, who asked me to, as I played myself before, if I could join and teach the kids. But so fun. So and after having the Tre Kronor school, they formed the teams. So I got to be coach for the 06 team in Saltsjöbaden, where I coached my own kid, my son, with several other kids. We had like, I don't know, 35 to 40 kids in that age group here. Saltsjöbaden was kind of fun. I know you had Kim Lindgren here, your podcast previously. But he joined after I left, a few years after, to be honest. But we were kind of new. Saltsjöbaden had got their barn, or what do you call it?
Hockey rink,
yeah, with the roof. So we had a team before us, the 04 team, where we had some really good quality early. Some of them are at Djurgården. You have Tom Wilander at Rögle. He's really good at the national junior team as well. So they were like kind of the first team competing within Saltsjöbaden. And that was not like approved by all, because this community where I live is more a community of sailing, skiing and playing tennis, to be honest, and maybe some golf. And hockey you can do it, but you cannot focus on doing hockey. So that was kind of how it looked like when we started back then. But what happened was that the 06 team we had also had some good quality. Could be some of how we trained them, because we trained a lot of skating. The 04 team left. We kept the 06 team, and I coached them until they were like 12, 13, and then we moved to Nacka, and that is like the natural step around here. You have a few clubs, and Nacka has always represented the team with some higher education and quality, so that was a natural step to take for my son.
So I just think it's so neat because, Saltsjöbaden is one out of, I don't know how many clubs. I should have done some research on this ahead of time, but you have all these small organizations just like it, right? Bo, Saltsjöbaden, Varmdo, where you are now, all these small that are kind of nestled in these little suburbs. And then you have the natural, like you're saying, Nacka is the next level up, more organized. But Nacka is not. You don't see Nacka at the elite level like Djurgården or Södertälje or AIK.
Well, that's not. It depends. If you look at J20 national, yes, they're not there.
Correct.
And I have quite a fun story about that, because a couple of years back they went undefeated the entire season, so they got to the qualification to the national, and it's a game best of 3, and they met AIK. And I don't know how it is today, but back then the J20 team was allowed to have 5 older players from the from the A team. So they played with like Kovac, Jesper Bratta, and a few of those. So it was like 10-0, 2 games out. So it's really hard to get up to the nationals if you don't have an A team. But other than that, I would say Nacka J18, they played national like many years, qualifying from region. So and we had, I mean, talking about all those small clubs within the suburbs like Bo, Älta, Varmdo, Saltis, and so on, and Nacka. Also, I think it was about 10 years back, we had like a silent agreement within this part of east of Stockholm that Nacka was the elite team.
Yep.
So all the other teams should provide them, and they would not like take players from each other. And I think that's quite a good model until some of the other teams say, "Hey, we want to be the elite team," and then it's very hard to keep your players. And I think we lose, all of us, if we can't like find a way to do this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, Nacka was a feeder organization to Djurgården at the elite, at the adult organization level, right?
Yes, and I mean we all find our place in the food chain.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Nacka's U16, this year they went. I think they ended up like 3rd or 4th in the Swedish nationals for U16.
Yeah.
I mean, 80% of the team, they're not Nacka next year. They are like Färjestad, Örebro, and so on.
Yeah.
So you need to find your way, and you need to find a way how to continue to develop the players staying to be competitive. I know many clubs like or similar like Nacka, they use their U16 best players to play J18. Like Täby, for instance. And
Yeah.
I mean, Täby, they made the national this year. Incredible. With a team where you had like 80% of the best players in other teams after U16.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But again, I mean, as I said, I'm the vice chairman of Varmdo, of the board of Varmdo Hockey, and we are also elite. If you look at J18, same time I'm sitting here in your podcast saying we should find ways to collaborate and like work together. And the question you need to ask yourself is, do you have room in a pretty small region for only elite teams? Because if you look at Varmdo playing regional, Nacka same, and we are like 15-20 minutes apart. Then you have Saltsjöbaden, and I know you talked to Kim Lindgren. They have like a vision to climb the ladder. Bo, same thing. So we do not have room for like 4 elite teams. I've talked to players I know from the 06 generation who didn't take a place in either of those teams. None. And if they can't play at Saltsjöbaden, where can they play?
Yeah.
I mean, should you quit playing at 15 years of age because all your team in the neighborhood want to be elite?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I mean, there's so many kids not wanting to be elite. It's not for everyone to play that.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how so we have to have a segment of this podcast talking about Leksand, of course, but I think they got a pretty good model now. what people don't know in Leksand is that their second team is not called Leksand 2. It's Häradsbygden, which is, so HSS, Häradsbygden Sportsällskap, is their Division 1 J18 team. Which, so within there, which I think works really, really well. But if you compare to, let's say, Mora, so they play in J18 and J18 West, as an example. Mora only has one team. They're an NIU, and they play J18 region and compete at the national. So after Christmas, they made to the nationals and did really, really well. J20, they produce players, so they compete at the highest level at J20 national with teams like Leksand, Färjestad, Djurgården. But they don't have what you're saying. They don't have a Division 1 option. They don't have the LIU. So if you grow up and you don't make that team, you end up having to move to other organization like perhaps Orsa or Leksand or Falun. But in Leksand, you have it within, and you have a national competing team in region and national, and then you have a Division 1 organization, so that is now called Häradsbygden. That is that. So if you want to stay, you can, which I think is a good model.
Yeah, me too. We need to look at hockey a little bit broader as a sport. We're going to go into that later on about what I do as my work. Yeah. But it is also in the sense of like a social engagement, where we learn kids so much except playing hockey. So we need this platform, and we can't just make it exclusive for a small percentage. Yeah. And again, we don't know who's going to be the real player later on.
So let's segue into that.
Different options.
Let's segue into not TargetAid yet, but I wanted to talk about your experience. And I can empathize it as well, being involved in a local organization, which is incredible. The amount of learning that I have I spent 10 years within a local youth hockey organization early on, and I started off not knowing anything. As a matter of fact, I was a spectator on the side, and somebody, sidled up to me and said, you want to get involved? And I said, I don't even have skates anymore. I took a long time off. And they said, well, here's a pair. So they made the barrier of entry really easy and gave me a size 13 skate, which is 4 sizes too big. But they said, get on out there. We need volunteers. But here's the fact I think both of us can shared experiences, how much we learn along the journey. And then unfortunately, you mentioned offline mistakes that you made along the way, which if we look back at like what I know now, and I have a segment, a question I try to ask as many guests, and that is, if you met yourself, at this age, what would you tell yourself at the age 17? I think is a great question. And it points out the parts about what did you learn along the journey. So let me pose not that question of what would you tell yourself, but what are some things? You mentioned 3 points that you learned along the journey of perhaps mistakes that you made along the way that you'd like to share.
I would love that, but from being 17 or as a parent and
yes,
a hockey coach.
So quite from so both from as a that you see from parents, also as a coach, but also working within the organization from an administrative standpoint.
Okay, really good question. First of all, I would say you don't know what's gonna come, right? So we are actually training kids, right? And particular hockey in our case. And we try to give them the best like foundation to stand on, right? From how to skate, shoot the puck and pass the puck and so on, and play the game. But I think we do not need to create those filters early on, where you put different groups divided by knowledge on the ice. Because first of all, it's kind of stupid, because hockey is a game of uncertainty. So you need to be ready for the unexpected, right? So I would say, on the contrary, it's really good to train with less good guys. So you can train on receiving the puck from a bad position, right? But as I said offline, you do mistakes in your life, and regarding myself, I did all those mistakes. I divided the groups. We also had one kid playing football. He came really late in the season, and his mom said, "Oh, why he's not up on the rooster for next game?" I said, "Well, he hasn't trained." And she told me that shouldn't matter, because he trained football.
Yeah.
And this is like a club for everyone, including. And I said no. And that, I mean, I feel ashamed of that today, because
But you didn't know.
I didn't know better, but looking back, it's like, okay, why couldn't he play? Does anyone remember the result from that game? No, I don't. But the thing is here that I see other people making the same mistakes, and they are in the similar situation, like my situation, but it's 10 years later, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I'm trying to say to them, listen, you don't need to do the same mistake. I can tell you this is not the right way to go. There's a time for everything, and I also speak to people when I speak about those things. People might regard me as like trying to find like the broad perspective, or getting everyone in, and that is not the case. I'm actually quite competitive, and I do like people striving for elite and doing their best. I have nothing against elite teams, but it's a time and place for everything, and I would say at least up to U16. It's a hobby, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you ask parents, they believe it's a job.
Yeah.
And it's not a job. There's no 14, 15-year-old little guy who plays hockey for a job, because they love the sport. Yeah. So and I think you can really find those gems that will thrive and be real hockey players later on, even in those groups. And actually, I didn't tell you this offline. I need to tell you this, and if you haven't seen it, you need to go Google or YouTube it. Ovechkin, there's a video of Ovechkin where he gets asked, how come, what's the secret behind your success? And Ovi says, well, I lied about my age when I was young. And they say, oh, so you played against older guys? No, I played against those 5 years younger. I made like 10, scored 10 goals a game. But it's so funny, because if you look at how it looks in Sweden, all parents want their sons or daughters to play up.
Yep.
And here you have like one of the best all time saying, no, I did the opposite. So I learned how to score like 10 goals a game. It's so funny.
Oh, it's so good. So what about the other one? You mentioned kind of the problem of the competing interests out there, they're always going to be there about, hey, you have the talent, number 9 there, the 9-year-old number 9, man, he is really, really good. You should go and play here with this group. Come to this select team. And you don't need to play with those guys anymore. They don't even know what they're doing. Here, come join us. We will make you a pro. 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Here in the US, it's called, oh, we want to invite you to this AAA organization. We will travel all over the world as 10-year-old. And by the way, you know, we will play 82 games, and we will allow financing so you can pay this off over 5 years. You know, we know you can't really afford it, but you know, we can provide financing at. I mean, I'm making jokes here, but it's really so. Talk about the problems that you see with the select teams.
Not particularly the select team, but how you describe it. The first thing that comes to my mind is that it's hard to step up. So, eventually, if you keep on playing, or I mean, 82 games, then you probably need to actually enter the NHL. But if you do, there's no step up. You played 82 games since you were 10. It's stupid. To begin with. Regarding select teams, I would say as long as you consider them as extra time to play hockey and you do it for fun, well, great then. But you need to remember that at least playing when you're like 10, 11 years old, it's not like you're not even close to be a hockey player.
Yeah.
And the problem here is that if you're in a select team, I think it's easy to fool yourself that you are a hockey player, and you're actually not. It's for fun. I think you at least need to enter like J18 and further on to consider yourself a true hockey player.
But isn't it true though? Isn't it true though that you have these? You know, if we look back at the guys that are the best players, very few of them were bad players when they were 10, right? But at the same time, just because you weren't a top player at 10 doesn't mean that you can't become one, right?
No, yeah.
So I think that everyone develops differently.
Yeah, but there's a lot of players from the select teams that actually go all the way. So I mean, I wouldn't say it's a disadvantage to be good at early age. It's not that I'm saying. On the contrary, but I don't think it's a question about can other people not being in the select team go all the way. Yes, they can. But if you look at the ones actually playing those teams at an early age, it's far from certain that they will be a hockey player.
Yeah.
At the end. So that's what I'm addressing here, and also what we tend to forget about young players is that you have your physicality that plays a great role in your success, and you can look at two players that were really good young age, for instance, Lucas Raymond and Alexander Holst. And I've been fortunate to actually see Alexander Holst close range being at Nacka same time. He had a huge advantage in his physics. And I would say, in my opinion, I might be wrong here, but that is at least what I think. People regarded him as the absolute number one compared to Lucas Raymond. But look at it today. This is like an extreme example, but people tend to get the physics later on, And then you have other things that matters more, like the sense for the player and so on. Both are really fantastic players. I'm not saying one of them are bad, but things can change, and other things will be more important during the years to come. So,
Yeah,
so
both have done fine.
absolutely, great players, great persons. Even though I haven't met both of them, but absolutely. But you can use it as an example for other kids that
Yeah.
are not maybe the same level as them, even not even when they were kids, but stuff happens, and you can. I always said about skating. I've seen so many young kids that were maybe a bit too strong for their own best. So they skated like crazy, and they were the fastest skaters, but they didn't have like the correct technique to do it. I always said slow down, but how do you slow down a 10-year-old that can go fastest of all? And then they turn like 14, 15, and they haven't trained correct because they didn't have to, because they were fastest. And now all of a sudden they are not even like in the middle of the team anymore.
Yeah. And I just did, we just released a podcast with Mange and Anni from Skills and Prehab. Mange, who works in the South, and a lot of what they work on within there, it's about mobility and movement and the technique. And I think that there's a lot of people that they make a lot of mistake in their development by they're just putting the pedal to the metal and they're just going hard, and sometimes they they lift too much, for example, weights, and then they do not work enough in their hips and their preventative side. But the other part is too, I think it translates well into how much are they working on broadening their understanding of the game, and how much are they working with their mental health. We've talked about all these different sides of what builds a strong human, what builds a strong hockey player, what builds a strong person. Let's go into this section, because I think it's important about the hurdles or the filters, what you mentioned, in what you see as problems within Swedish hockey. In previous episodes, we've talked a lot about at 15, the filter, what filters out a lot of players is did I make the TV puck tournament team for my region? Of course, Stockholm has North and South, so they have two, but they've got so many players to pull from, but it's a big filter. The next one is going to be, did I make an NIU or not? So some people quit. But you mentioned something else that where in your experience, that is the bigger filter probably of all of them, is what? Not at age 15, not at age 16, but age 18, 20.
Yeah. I just want before I answer that question, I would like to address first of all the first filter, the TV puck, and that might be more of a filter outside Stockholm, I would say, where you live at a smaller area, and there is not that many players, and you might feel more deselected from the team, and that might get you to quit. Of course, there might be some kids in the Stockholm area as well that quit because they didn't manage to get into the TV puck. But I don't think it's the same level as outside Stockholm. Also, we could have 4 or 5 teams with Stockholm kids competitive in the TV puck. So I think that is also a relief for those not getting into the TV puck team, that they feel anyway that, yeah, but I could have made it if I played for another area in Sweden. So I haven't seen that many kids quit after the TV puck year, not due to not getting into the TV puck. And I've seen a lot of kids not getting in, and I've seen a few of them actually getting into the TV puck. But again, then they will enter the hockey gymnasium. I know there's been so many talks about what qualifies you to get into the NIO, gymnasium, but I'm pretty sure one must be being on the list for the TV puck. It has to be.
Yeah.
So being there, you will at least get an easier way to get your place in the hockey gymnasium somewhere, at least NIO gymnasium in the country. But there's so many other gymnasiums you can play for. For instance, Varmdo or Nacka or other teams in Täby or SDE in Stockholm that plays regional also. And they play there for 2 years, J18, and then they're going to go to J20. So that's my revelation of this year, talking about filters, which I see must be the absolute hardest, eye of the needle to go through. And that is turning 18, you get your car, you're allowed to buy a beer. Maybe you're more interested into girls at that age, and you're having wheels, so you can move around, right? And you had 2 years with hard training if you play at region, and then you're going to enter into your J20 team. And I think, or I know in one case where we had a team of really good players that had they got asked from really good national J20 teams if they wanted to come for a tryout or play for them, and they said no, because they wanted to have other stuff in their life than train like a crazy person for like 2 years. And I always said, if you want to be within sports and do that as your occupation, your work, you need to be a bit crazy. And I always told my kids, as I have 5 of them, that you can be whatever you want to if you like put in the effort. That will take you somewhere. And I would say if you play 2 years region J18, you're good enough to take it all the way. And it's up to you what that end stop or end game is. Is that playing in like Switzerland or Finland or Sweden or Hockeyettan or whatever, or all the way to the America? It's up to you, because you definitely have the correct foundation to stand on if you played region for 2 years, J18. But you need to say like, okay, I'm 18. I'm going to give it this 2-3 years with 100% dedication, focus. I'm going to train like a crazy person, like eat, sleep, train. And that doesn't give you a lot of time to hang around with friends, go to parties or drink beer. So if you ask like a guy 18 years old, you can ask 100 and maybe 1 or 2 will say, yeah, I'm going to do this for 2-3 years.
Well, you may find a larger percentage says, oh yeah, I'm committed.
Yeah,
but
you might.
How many really are committed?
Yeah, I mean, and we talked also about this offline, but what you should ask yourself if you're running a hockey gymnasium or any team, region or elite, J18 or U16 or whatever, you should ask the kids, your players, what's your motivation? What's your focus? Where do you think you're going to be in a few years? And I'm not sure you will have like 100% of the players saying, yeah, I'm going to do this like a crazy person for the next years. there must be guys who says, "No, I'm going to play this because I like it. I want to hang out with my friends." Yeah, and maybe you shouldn't play at the highest level then, or at least take a place for someone else at the hockey gymnasium, because they will probably be sorted out in the next filter when you enter J20.
So let me stop you right there, because I think that it's such an important point. You have a 17-year-old or 18-year-old that goes to hockey gymnasium. They're a really good player, but they don't have the mentality, they don't have the drive for whatever reason, right? Maybe they got burned out, or maybe they like another sport better. Maybe they are really, really good at tennis, and that is now, so whatever reason, or they are in love with their girlfriend, whatever it may be. But what you're saying here is that if you don't have the drive to push yourself, because it could be that you're now taking the spot of someone that has the drive, but maybe at 17 isn't quite there yet, right?
And that's the point of view of the leadership. You should have it. But if you look at how you would look at it as a parent, for instance, you need to understand and accept that not everyone want to play that level hockey.
Correct.
It's not for everyone. You must accept that and say, okay, fine, play for fun and do what you like. You can't push people to be this. Or push them to put like 2-3 years of a perfect age to have fun, to be honest, around 20, to be out running and training all the time.
But isn't it, so from an administrative standpoint though, aren't there a lot of opportunities that are, how do we establish a environment that opportunities, förutsättningar, or that increases the odds? I mean, let's face it, that's what we are in control over, that says we're going to have good facilities that you don't have to drive to an hour to get to. We want to provide low cost options, which that ties in with what we're going to talk about next. But the other part is we want to be able to have the best leaders, and that are true leaders that can actually teach and train, and it needs to be a safe environment, where you don't have bullying, you don't have it's a high level of expectations and so on. It's not just free for all, right? Isn't that, from an organizational standpoint? Because what I have seen, unfortunately, where organizations fail, or maybe they don't hit it out of their ballpark, and that is they don't have the finances, they don't have the leadership, they don't have the vision, so therefore they end up putting the wrong people in charge of a team, maybe because of their resume, but they're really not a good coach, they're not a good leader. Maybe they don't have the baselines, or they don't have the, they got too many kids for this one person to handle all of it. And so the product ends up being, meaning the environment, the experience that this player have is like, or they may play at the wrong level. Yeah, we got our teeth kicked in for 35 games, and we went 1-35, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that made me burn out, or that made me, it was easier to get filtered out because I lost interest, versus, man, my coach was awesome. I was provided all the opportunities. We did all these things on and off the ice as an organization, as a team. I was inspired, where I may have been maybe not as fired up, but man, because of this environment, I am now inspired, and I am giving it all my all. This success really fed me. I don't know, maybe it's a natural selection anyway.
I think it is, and you need to accept it. And I think the fun part is that you need to connect the dots. Like first of all, you need to decide as a club, a sports club, a hockey club, your vision and mission, and actually what you are, and the path to get there, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at my club, Varmdo Hockey, we shall provide players to our senior team, who currently plays in Hockey 2.
Yeah.
And that I can talk a lot about, but that is what we are doing. And above that, we provide a lot of good quality knowledge about how to learn the kids good values and the importance of one person in a group and how they affect the group and so on. But in the meaning of the game or sports, we shall provide players to our senior team. Okay. If you look at teams playing the absolute top level senior teams like Växjö or Skellefteå, they need those crazy people that train like 2-3 years crazy, right? And that person will probably not care if it's a good facility or a dirty facility. That person will train anyway to reach the goal, right? So the fun part is that the really good facilities and what you have around with people, staff, and food and everything, you would probably benefit more having that at Varmdo to keep those players that don't have like the crazy drive, you know. So you need other ways to keep them in their sport. We have a good facility, right? But the crazy people, I'm pretty sure they don't care. They're going to do it anyway.
I looked at, I had this conversation with Ludwig Guvetarling, who grew up in Lead in Honingen. No, he played in Djurgården, and then he's the coach in Honingen now. But he went to a place like Karlskoga, which I think is, doesn't necessarily have the best facilities, but it has been a breeding ground of like when you can get really, really, okay, maybe they don't get the top end talent like Skellefteå or Rögle or HV71, but man, they're looking for that hard worker that, put them in the right environment. But they don't need that fancy environment to succeed.
And I mean, as a person, I do like that more.
Me too.
Yeah, it's like the rocky environment.
Yeah, it's like Bruksort. I had some conversation with Johan Schultz about he coaches J18 there, and he's like, yeah, the kind of player that we're looking for is not the pampered one. We're gonna outwork everybody here, and over time, and it produces results. I mean, it does.
Yeah.
So, all right. Let's segue and round out about, because I'm interested in kind of the original thing that you and I talked about. And from an organization, it takes money. It takes engagement. So your day job is being the CEO of TargetAid. So I wanted to put a shameless plug. We're going to say this episode is sponsored by Scandlux, but it's also sponsored by TargetAid today. It isn't, but I wanted to talk about it, right? So what is TargetAid, and why in the world would we want to bring that message out to the sports community?
First of all, because it's a really good message, and we do good. So first of all that. But what we do, we are a platform, a digital platform. Initially, we started, or I founded the platform to create engagement and to help NGOs. And my view of how to create engagement is that if you look at an NGO today and how they receive donations, people donate to the entire NGO, but the NGO have a lot of different projects that they work with. So I thought a couple of years back that wouldn't it be a really good idea if I could make a donation to a specific project within the daily work of the NGO. So,
and for those who don't know, what is an NGO?
A non-profit organization.
Yep.
So that is like Save the Children, SOS Barnbyar, Stiftelsen Friends, or Börje Salming ALS Foundation.
Yep.
Okay. So and I mean, most of us have probably donated something to some NGO in our lifetime. And we always donate to the NGO, and we don't know what they do with the money, except a lot of stuff, right? So I created this platform where we let the NGOs put up their work in a specific project on the platform, and we open up for people to search for, like, if I would like to find out, is there any causes or projects I can support within a specific disease or whatever, I would find them on TargetAid, and I could make my donation, and I will get some touch points back with the NGO, follow up. I know where my money goes to and what they've done with the money. So we began as like that was more like a peer-to-peer platform for social engagement causes connected by NGOs. But then the pandemic hit. And as I am in sports, I have 5 kids. I could see from the inside how bad the situation turned out to be for sports clubs in Sweden. You know, we weren't allowed to have people there, so we couldn't have the yearly payouts and stuff like that.
Yep.
So they were in a really bad place financially. And from the TargetAid point of view, we said, okay, why not let sports put their daily work in a project form and create a cause on our platform? Like, so we tried out with Nacka Hockey was the first, and we asked them, would you like to put up a fundraiser at TargetAid? Is there anything you need to collect money to do within your daily work? And they had this, I'm not sure, it's called shooting range.
Yep.
Where you practice your shooting. And they have a really nice one, but it was it needed some refreshing. So we helped them out by putting this cause, this fundraiser on our platform, and they collected like 1,500 euro within a day or two. So it was a complete success. And by doing this, when we looked at who actually contributed to the cause or the project, giving money, it was like grandparents and people close to the active players, but another layer than your mother and father. So it turned out that we managed to find what I say is like a hidden value within sports clubs. And those are the people around the players, because they can be really good ambassadors, but you need to feed them some way to create engagement, and so they can feel they are part of the kids' daily sports. And we did that by letting them donate like 10 euros to be part of building the new shooting range. So they actually got back to us within like 2 days and said, oh, it's actually people calling our Nacka office saying it got fully financed, so we want to give more, but we can't. So it was a complete success. After a while, we actually noticed that we had managed to create content for the club. Like, now we can actually show what we do. And this was interesting for companies around the sports club. And that brought us to sponsorships. And looking at how local sports in Sweden, and this is quite funny actually, how they work with sponsorships in Sweden, like every team in Sweden, and I'm not talking about Leksand right now because they actually have a high valuation of their brand and a lot of supporters. But if you look at Varmdo, which I represent, if we have like 50 to 100 people watching our senior team at a game, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Same time, when we talk to companies around our sports club, we try to sell them exposure, saying, give us like 2,000 euro, and we will put a sign of your logotype at the rink, right? But that means we actually put a value of having a sign in our rink. And then you need to ask yourself, if you ask a company to give you 2,000 in exchange for showing their logo, what will they get in return?
Yep.
And the answer is 0.
Well, they get 15 to 20 or 100 people.
They will, yes, they will probably not get one deal.
Correct.
To be honest.
Correct.
And also, all the deals they will get, it demands that the person buying your stuff will need to go into our arena and see the sign and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy a.
I've been wanting to needing an excavator, grab machine today.
Yeah. So being in sales and marketing myself, I thought this is so strange, because same time we have companies actually paying for this. So I called a lot of companies asking them, how come you pay for this kind of sponsorship? Is it because of the exposure of your logo? And no one said yes. No one. But what they said or told me was that, yeah, we do it because, social engagement, the value of local sports, the team teaches our kids good behavior or whatever, soft values. And what business shouldn't listen to the clients, right? So if our business or sports depends upon the companies paying us money, we should listen to them and say, okay, how come you pay us the money? And it's not because of the sign.
Yeah.
So what we do with TargetAid is that we do it in 3 steps. First step is we help the club put up this fundraiser on the platform. Then we connect relatives to the active players. They create engagement in their turn. And then we let all the sponsoring companies use that content in their own platform, saying, hey, look, this is why I support this sport club. It's because of they do this, this, and this. And that creates value. So that's what we do. And we grow a lot the last couple of months. And I'm really happy to say that 2 days ago, we got a call from Södertälje Sports Club, SSK in Hockey Allsvenskan, asking us, they're actually telling us that they will do this fundraiser, trying to get Sebastian Dyk and Ludwig Blomstrand back to the team, the senior team. One playing in Finland in the highest tier, and the other one in Czechoslovakia. And but they didn't have the money within the budget to pay them the sign-off fee. So they made a collaboration with different supporter clubs, saying we're going to try to raise 1 million Swedish crowns for the signing fee, and they use TargetAid. So yesterday we started this campaign, and today they had about, I think, 250,000 Swedish crowns collected already, and also about 100 more through invoices. So really success.
Why do you think that? So I'm interested in this too, and contrasting why that is. I have my thoughts on it, but why is that successful versus and maybe explain to. So here in the U.S., fundraising is non-existent. 100%. It's very, very expensive in comparison to play hockey in the US versus, and I'm not sure about Canada, but I can tell you from a youth organization standpoint, normal fees are between $2,500 to $4,500, just the fees itself per season, dollars. So that's, 25,000 to 45,000 Swedish crowns per player at the U14 level, as an example. Sweden is much cheaper than that, but that means that that's partially because they survive on a lot of sponsorships and fundraising and events, right?
Yeah, we need to not actually fundraising events, because that's pretty new. That's what we're trying to to make all clubs in Sweden do. But sponsorships, yes. I would say I haven't found one club in any sport with youth and kids that not have any sponsorships.
Yeah.
So,
but what's the current? If you look at I just thought it was kind of interesting, because when my son went over to Sweden, the first thing was, we have here's how we raise funds, and what do you think that method was that went around to the players and to the parents? It was funny for me.
Yeah, I would say word of mouth. So
no, it was
no.
We want you to sell toilet paper.
Okay, yeah. And they're so fed up. Toilet paper, it's sausages, it's bamboo underwear, it's candlelights.
So that was my first experience was, to raise money, we want you to go to all your families to sell toilet paper. But it must work though, because so I'm seeing this with, on social media, hey, so-and-so is raising money. And I remember as a kid going door to door to sell calendars or Christmas Christmas magazines and these type of things. Everybody in Sweden is pretty used to it, but I honestly never ever sold toilet paper. But
why it works?
So why is so there's got to be there's what I'm saying is there's opportunities, because not everybody likes to go and sell toilet paper. So why is TargetAid a different and maybe better method? Because at the end of the day, an organization, what they're more interested in is, well, we're trying to raise money here, right? Mm-hmm. And they do that because, well, it worked pretty good. So what makes TargetAid work better?
Well, if you look at the Nacka case, but they're not far from the only one having a fundraiser for a shooting range at our platform. But if you look at them and compare it to buying toilet paper or actually buying a part of the shooting range, what would you prefer? Buying toilet paper or making sure your grandson can practice shooting at a nice shooting range? For me, it's a no-brainer.
Yes.
And also, there's the whole package around it, which is actually digital. We have follow-ups, updates. You can follow the project, see what actually your 10 euros went to, if it's the flooring or the goals or whatever. So it creates engagement.
But aren't they selling the toilet paper because that's a solution that is on the table? It's prepackaged. Here's how you do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, it would be fun to get some statistics of how many parents actually end up buying the toilet paper instead of the kids selling the toilet paper.
Exactly.
Mm.
I didn't buy any toilet paper, by the way, but yeah.
No, but I've had so many. As I mentioned, 5 kids. I've had so much different stuff at home that we had to buy, and I rather put money into specific cause for the club, choosing myself where it should go to.
Yeah.
Not being having to buy the toilet paper, but if you look at. We had Djurgården handicap football. I love that cause where they wanted to put their team into a training camp at Bosön. So lovely team, and they raised 30,000 Swedish crowns for them going to this training camp. I rather put my money there than buying toilet paper. The Nacka U16 team. They needed some extra money to go to the Swedish national finals. I rather support them than buying toilet paper, and so on.
And maybe the fan isn't interested in paying for this elite player, right? But maybe this fan is more, or maybe this family member or this person has a closer connection to the shooting ramp or to the shooting area, or I want to support this cause versus that cause. What you're providing is, here's the options, but we want the consumer to know where the money's going.
Yes, with a clear follow-up, but also letting the consumer make their choice by themselves, and also when to do it, and what to support. And I mean, we also have clubs, this is also within TargetAid service. As I began mentioning, we do have all those NGOs, the help organizations on the platform, and we do a lot of work for Börje Salming's ALS Foundation, and we have a lot of clubs saying, "Oh, we want to support the cause, trying to get funds for science for ALS, but we might not have the money ourselves to support them, but we can act as an ambassador."
Yes.
And then they can easily, within like a minute, pick up that cause on our platform and embed it onto their landing page profile at TargetAid, saying, "We as a club support Börje Salming, and if you want to make a contribution, you can do it through our channel." And that's really good as well.
So what's the best way? All right, now TargetAid, right? So I know on your website, it has a very bright and centered in green, explore TargetAid. Is that the best place for people to kind of go to learn more about it? Or, I mean, TargetAid is targetaid.com, but I think more than just saying, you know, hey, go when they go there, where should they go to learn more about it?
Yeah, I would say so. You kind of nailed me here. We are working. We have in progress to redesign our front end because I do not like it. But the explore button is where everything happens. So you go to the green big explore button, and we also have it in Swedish. So you choose your language, and then you go to projects to support or I think that's the name in English. And then there you will find everything. You can search for ice hockey, for instance, and you will find all courses connected to hockey, or you can search for a specific club like Täby or Nacka or Järpen or any club, and you can find all those courses. But
most consumers aren't going to go to TargetAid. They're probably going to be seeing that within their local organization, right?
Absolutely. So what we provide the clubs with is, first of all, a widget connected to a widget is like an iframe where you can have the fundraiser on your own platform, quite easy. So we always tell the clubs to use the widget, put that on their own website, and above all, they use our mail send out to mail all their members and family members of the club, saying this is our new cause. And also it's connected to social media. So by pressing a button, you can easily share your fundraiser within like Instagram, Facebook, or drop a link in your parents' WhatsApp group or whatever.
Yeah.
And it goes pretty fast. I mean, those who do not succeed, those are the ones who never promoted the cause. But the ones promoting the cause by like posting Facebook, I would say the average time to raise like €1,000 is about 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, I should start a fundraiser for a Swedish Junior Hockey podcast is what I'm realizing.
Absolutely, and you can. It's free of charge.
One thing I want to, I just, you actually send this link to me, but I actually pulled it up on your website, and I think it's a great example. So I pulled up the one for Södertälje Sport Club, the one you mentioned that's the one. It says the fans collection for Blomstrand and Dyk. You mentioned that. So what I'm seeing here, just for those that are listening and don't have this in front of you on your computer, is detailed what this fundraiser all about, how much they're trying to collect, latest donations. So I saw who has donated, and it could be, $10 or 100 Swedish crowns, or it could be $50. A lot of these are small trickle donations. Over here in the US, it's similar to GoFundMe, but it's and then it's got a very easy, clear button here on how to donate and how to input that information. But then also what I like here is make an impact and inspire others. So the viral component of, if you like this, so somebody said, if you like us, talk about us. If you don't, just keep your mouth shut. But it's really, if you like this, maybe you want to share this and spread this out among others.
Yes, absolutely. And I would just say that you would probably like it if you donate, right? And if you donate, you would like to show others that you have made a donation to this specific cause, but also you're thinking in the terms of, how can I do even more good? Well, I can make the donation, but you will probably create even more donations by sharing the fundraiser. So we work with layers, and our platform, I would say, a community of companies, which we haven't mentioned, sports clubs and NGOs, organizations.
I think it's awesome. And just like when we had, we were talking about Svensk Hockey TV was an episode of this episode. It's a good product, and I don't mind sharing that. This is close to, here's why I wanted to have you on, is it's a good product, it's a good site, and it works well with both the listeners and and their organizations where they are. So plus you're a good hockey nerd to have on this podcast to chat about as well. And so if you have an opportunity, learn more about it, share it, TargetAid.com and so on. Is it any other ways that if they wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Sorry, I would say by email, and my email is james@targetaid.com.
Simple.
Yeah, really easy. Or you just go by the site and go info@targetaid.com.
Yeah, we didn't have too much Leksand discussions. We will have to have you back on and talk about, for a while there we had a lot of people from Stockholm on, and then we had a little lull, and now more Stockholm people, but we don't mind it at all. And thanks for coming on, sharing your thoughts from an organizational standpoint, but also on TargetAid. It's been informative and more than anything fun. So thanks a bunch.
Thank you. Cheers, Jacob.